Greetings and welcome to a Prayerful Pause. I am Nancy Woodworth-Hill and amongst other things, a spiritual director. Today we will look at the practice of writing a gratitude letter. So gratitude comes from the Latin root gratus, means pleasing or welcome or agreeable. Its related words are grace, gratuity, and gratis. So being grateful is an action, and that action can be considered a spiritual practice. So one way to acknowledge another's action in your life is to write a note of gratitude. Doesn't need to be fancy, just heartfelt. Research shows that such a note will make you feel good and will make the recipient feel great. The main impediment, I think, to expressing gratitude is the perceived awkwardness. So with a few simple steps, it's not nearly as daunting as anticipated. So let's talk through the practice first, then I'll give a few hints on wording a letter. First, determine the recipient. To whom do you wish to write? Perhaps a teacher, a mentor, a supportive friend or family member, or colleague, or a helpful neighbor. You could ask, who in my life don't I give enough credit to? Or who would I like to give a hug to? Then gather your supplies. Handwritten letters are the gold standard, even with less than perfect handwriting. Typed letters are not wrong either. The point is to craft something that can be held in one's hands and held onto as a memento. There is the surprise to find something in one's mailbox and the delight of being able to read it again. Next, spend a little time thinking about your recipient. What role did this person play in your life? You don't need to spend a lot of time because the goal is to call to mind a cherished memory. How did you meet? What did they do for you? What have you not forgotten? Did you apply their advice in your life? Have you shared with another person what you learned? Don't overthink. Just jot down a few points and don't even need to answer all the questions I asked. One or two is plenty. So a gratitude letter is not meant to encapsulate the whole of your relationship. You can give thanks for one specific thing. Next, it's time to sit down and write. If you wish, you can start with a reason for writing, or just start with thank you. Then tell the person why you are grateful. So here's where you use your notes. You may choose to tell more about the words or the action the person used, where you were, what was said or done, how it made you feel then or now. Don't worry about using flowery language. Just write from your heart. And then finish strong and with gratitude and a compliment. What does this favor or event say about the person? It's a way to compliment them. Is it indicative of their kindness or generosity or another quality? State this. Perhaps add a wish for the future that you can meet again or return to where you met or something else. And finally, keep copies. Take a photo, scan, or make a written copy of the letter before sending it. These copies can be gathered together and used as a reminder that there are people who make our lives better. So now that we've made the process into a set of steps, let's acknowledge that the main impediment to expressing gratitude is the perceived awkwardness, just sitting down to do it. With a few simple guidelines, it's not nearly as daunting as anticipated. So start by addressing the person. My darling husband, wife, or partner. My dearest aunt or uncle, or a friend. Dear sir or madam, if and don't know the person's name. Dear Mr. or Mrs. or Dr. or Professor, last name. Just use an appropriate form of address. Introduce yourself if you need by giving a brief sentence to create a connection. So something like, I was your ER patient on such and such a date who was suffering from such and such a condition. I was the recipient of a college scholarship for something very simple to connect yourself to this person if they're mostly a stranger to you. Explain how you were helped personally or professionally. What happened? Describe the support and how you were impacted then and or now. You may include a time frame and a compliment. You can describe also the results of their help. How were you able to use it? What struggle did their help alleviate? How did their help change you? How do you now see the value of family or friends in your life? Has that changed? Have you been able to pass their kindness on to others? Having been both the recipient and the writer of such letters, I can tell you it gets easier as you write more of them, and they are a delight and a joy to receive. So when our oldest son was in college, he had suffered from anaphylactic shock. It was late at night, he was outside. A security guard, who actually remains nameless to me, found him and got an ambulance there. And I am so grateful that this man realized the gravity of the situation. He got help, saved my son's life. And my son noted that 3 years later, he noticed that my thank you note was still hung up in the office of the security department. So let's go back through the steps for this letter. First, determine the recipient. Then, gather your supplies. Spend a little time thinking about the recipient. It can just be one specific event or action or thing that happened. Sit down and write. Finish strong and keep a copy. If you have found this video helpful, please consider sharing it as one way to support this ministry. Go in peace.